Hello folks! In this video we're going to go over chapter 3.3 of Digimon Seekers. Remember that if you want to read a summarized version of each chapter, you can find it on my blog in both Spanish and English. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Chapter 3. Unit 11, Digital Missing in Action. Chapter 3.3. The story goes back to the past. Ryusenji Laboratories quickly vaulted to the forefront of the digital world research not long after its discovery. Its initial team consisted of 3 of Assistant Professor Ryusenji's students, Kosuke Kisakata, a programming prodigy, Yulin's close friend Saya Ryusenji, the assistant professor's daughter, and Shu Yulin herself. "You've got to quit coddling Kosuke, Saya. Bringing him a change of clothes? Who are you, his mother?" Yuling said between mouthfuls of pork bowl before chugging a bottle of tea like her life depended on it. "I'm his wife, not his mother," Saya corrected, "and it's fine, it was on my way." "I'm just saying any hour of your precious life that you spend on this bozo is an hour wasted." Here's your soup, Kosuke," Saya said, handing Kosuke a container. "Thanks," Kosuke replied. "And you have to eat your salad too," Saya chided, fussing over her husband. They were very much newlyweds, and Tomonori Ryusenji smiled softly at the domestic scene before him. Yuling, however, suddenly felt like she was a freeloader sitting at the Ryusenji's dinner table. Tomonori let out a laugh. "What's so funny, Professor?" Yuling asked, reading into his laugh 5 million different ways, none of them good. "Yuling has no patience for men with a couple missing life skills like you and me, Professor." "Is that so, Kosuke? What would you say are our missing—" the assistant professor began. "How about we all eat quietly, Just enjoy the feed I brought for you wild animals," Saya said to a chorus of "Yes, Saya" from smiling faces all around the table. The topic of conversation was, of course, their research, specifically the digital world, the newly discovered place full of mysterious AI programs, sitting right there on the network. Ryusenji Laboratories had observed these life-form-like programs, as they'd called them for want of a better term, before anyone else. They were little digital monsters. Unfortunately, their short lifespans made research difficult, and nothing was going according to plan. They needed to find a way to raise and breed these creatures for further study. Suppose the professor's hypothesis is correct, that they're living eye life forms in there, Saya offered, with the professor winning out over Dad this time. It often felt as though her brain flipped a coin every time she needed to refer to him. Tomonori himself rarely thought about it very much. He loved his family, but he truly lived for his research, a scholar's scholar, so to speak. If they're AI life forms, then we might be able to keep them as one keeps a pet, like this one, for example, Tomonori said, gesturing toward his monitor. It was filled with numbers that, upon further inspection, changed with a rhyme and reason, with a sort of natural order. "It's so cute," Kosuke said. "Isn't it just, Kosuke? I do believe this one." "Yes, I think it might be amphibian in nature." Yes, it might have a duality to it," Kosuke agreed. "You're the only ones who think you know that," Yuling snarked, as the 2 men pored over the numbers. But Yuling, just imagine seeing it all for yourself, not just a bunch of numbers, but the real thing with your own eyes," Saya said, dreamily. They all suspected doing so would upend much of the world's conventional wisdom. It would mean extraterrestrial life wasn't on Mars, Jupiter, the moons of Saturn, nor any other rocky planet or thriving off in the Andromeda galaxy. It had been right here on the network the whole time. "Exactly, Saya," Tomonori said, turning to look at his daughter. "We have to be able to observe the digital world directly if our research is to scale in any meaningful way. In other words, we need investment from public and private entities, and we'll need to show results that they can understand too. As beautiful as this data looks to us, it doesn't mean a thing to them," Kosuke added. "Yeah, of course," Yuling agreed. "And on that note," Tomonori said, gripping the table with both hands. Yuling recognized the gesture as his "now we're discussing serious matters" pose. "Yes, I'm starting a business." "A business? You're turning this into a company or something?" Yuling understood what the words meant, but not necessarily in this context. I want to see the digital world with my own eyes, hear it with my own ears, touch it with my own 2 hands. I think you're skipping ahead a little too far, Kosuke interrupted. You know how the university has some venture capital set aside for incubating businesses? We'll use that to start a company. So we use the university's venture capital to start what? Ryusenji Laboratories Incorporated? A publicly traded company? Exactly, the current cabinet is keen to support startups right now and they just might get the budget for it, Kosuke said. And you knew about this too, Saya? Am I the last one to hear about this? I only heard about it just before you did, Saya said. Don't take it personally. We had to take things one step at a time, and the professor didn't want the excitement to be short-lived, Kosuke said, trying to contain the fallout. What do you mean? Why would it have been short-lived? We'd be able to move out of this dingy, frozen lab into an office with a proper server room. Okay, I'm in, Yueling said without thinking. Great! We need you, the trilingual presentation whiz, to make our pitch to secure the funding, Kosuke said, beaming. We're counting on you, Saya chimed in cloyingly. Kosuke and Professor Ryusenji had classic researcher brains. Saya was a genius in her own right, with a list of accomplishments longer than Yuling's, but they were probably worried about her looking too young and childlike. Yuling couldn't argue with that. The cops once escorted her home, mistaking her for a middle school student out well past her bedtime. Are you sure? Yuling asked the professor. Sure about what? I mean, I was born Japanese, but my father's a naturalized citizen and my mother's from... Yuling trailed off, thinking about the many hurdles that stood in their way. Digital world research was on the cutting edge, bumping up against cybersecurity and national defense development. A company seeking government venture funds would no doubt trigger a background check against corporate espionage, which would complicate matters both for this new venture and Yuling herself. It may not be the most important factor, but she worried her nationality would become an issue. And how is any of that a problem? Tomonori said, looking Yuling straight in the eye. Yuling, Kosuke said gently. He's saying you're the only one who can do this. Oh, okay. Ryusenji Laboratories was on the move. Each bit of data on the main monitors described a creature living in the digital world, scurrying around, going about their life. Things are about to get very busy around here, Kosuke said. You'll be seeing a lot less of me, though. I'll be on the front lines getting things set up at the new office. So you've already found a new office? Nice. What about your university credits? You don't have enough, do you? Seiya asked with a note of genuine worry. I can stay enrolled here for a few more years, but I don't necessarily need to graduate at this point, Kosuke replied. I'll hire him even if he doesn't, Tomonori said with a smile. Yuling let out a heavy sigh. Not exactly a great thing for an educator to say, Professor, she chided. Perhaps not.